Hey everyone, this is James. Um, I'm dealing with some health issues, but the biggest one right now is semicircular, superior semicircular canal dehiscence syndrome, or SCDS. You might see it as SSCD as well, but it's been confirmed that it's not just SSCD, it's SCDS. I've actually got the syndrome, I guess, uh, which is a higher level or something. Anyways, they did a CT scan on my head for my ears, and the high resolution CT scan confirmed that there is a tiny pinhole, like the tip of a needle, in the superior canal in both ears. This condition is very rare, but is very serious. The and it's even more rare to have it in both ears. Some people will have it only in one ear, but the CT scan confirmed the holes in each of my ears. In the middle ear, they also did a VIMP test, which had producible results on the left side, but because I've got conductive hearing loss in the right ear, it interfered with the results of the VIMP test. But I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the symptoms that I'm experiencing. First off is disequilibrium. Oh, God. Oh. Got to get my head back after that. Whenever I cough, I get lightheaded and dizzy. But that's not what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about disequilibrium. What I experience is a sensation that the world is on a slant and that I'm going to fall off. Usually it's every morning as I'm waking up, or I'm semi-asleep, and it leaves me unable to move. I'm kind of almost disabled in that way. I'm unable to move and I feel helpless. Often it also happens whenever I close my eyes. So I could be sitting in a chair and close my eyes and I feel like the world is on a slant and I'm falling backwards, when in reality I'm sitting up. I also have the sensation that I'm sinking into the bed in the mornings, as if I was sinking into quicksand. Lately, the slants, as I call them, have been accompanied by waves or pulsations, which is a really horrible feeling. Kind of feeling like you're slanting backwards, but it's like a wave. And I also have the sensation of an electrical current flowing through my entire body. My arms, my legs, everything. I feel this electrical current going through, and it's quite miserable. Sitting up tends to help with the slants. as long as I don't close my eyes. Um, it usually takes me a while to get my head together in the mornings in order to function. Um, I have imbalance when I'm walking, and I use a cane for support. But this is also aggravated by the fact that there is arthritis and degeneration in my left hip, which causes me quite a bit of pain, and I feel if I overdo it by walking too far or something, even in the grocery store, uh, eventually I feel like my hip is collapsing underneath me. So that doesn't help the imbalance issues. I try to make sure that there is a wall next to me, so I have the cane on one side and my hand is touching the wall on the other, just to keep me upright. There are times that as I'm walking, I'm kind of falling backward in mid-step. My foot is, rather than hitting the ground, my foot is in the air because I'm falling backwards a little bit. My balance is off. I also have severe bilateral tinnitus or tinnitus, however you want to say it, for the last 3 years, or almost 4 years, in fact, since I had a head trauma in the bathroom on December 25th, Christmas Day, Christmas morning. I was in the emergency room early, by 9 o'clock. Well, 9 o'clock in the morning, I was in the emergency room on December 25th, 2020. It started out as a constant ringing in my ears at a frequency of about 10,000 hertz, which is beyond most people's range of hearing. My wife stops hearing things at about 6,000. I've discovered that I'm able to hear frequencies up to 16,000 hertz, which is incredibly high. So it's caused my hearing to be very, very sensitive. It's grown progressively louder over time. And I describe it as the sound of an old picture tube on a TV, only worse. And it feels like it's going to scramble my brain. As far as the volume goes, I would say it's at about an 8 out of 10, 10 being the max. There are moments that it does escalate to a 10 or sometimes a 12, where it is extremely, excruciatingly loud, and it feels as if it's going to scramble my brain. And I'm very sensitive to hearing conflicting pitches, like fire or police or ambulances driving by with their sirens on, which is a frequent occurrence where we live. We're just 2 blocks away from a fire department and 4 blocks away from a hospital, so it is a constant occurrence where we live. Also, there are times that a TV show or a movie emits a high-pitched frequency. The Batman movie a couple of years ago, they went into the criminal's lair and emitted a high-pitched frequency in order to scramble the brains of the criminals. And I was sitting in the seat in the movie theater and holding my head because the pitch was so irritating to and so conflicting with my tinnitus. Um, it might have been scrambling the brains of the criminals, but it was even worse for me because I'm so sensitive to it. Another example is uh, the Rings of Power TV show. Uh, the second season, they have the rings, and the rings have a certain power, but when the rings are activated or whatever they're doing, there's a high pitch frequency to it, and it's hard for me to listen to. Um, the tinnitus, about 2 weeks ago, I woke up and it turned into pulsative tinnitus, which is even more miserable. It's like a tinnitus that's pulsating. Um, it it has taken over my life. It's so miserable. I was able to deal with the constant tinnitus because it was one frequency constant. But now that it's pulsating, it is the most miserable feeling I've ever known, because the sound is trapped inside my head and there is no escape from it. And it has gotten to the point where I'm pretty much isolated to the house. Either I'm sitting on the couch or laying in bed much of the day. I've lost all desire to do anything. I can't even read. And even if I do try to read, I can't focus. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. I have no desire to watch videos on YouTube or to watch TV. It's taken the life out of me. Another one of my symptoms is dizziness, especially when I sneeze or I cough or I blow my nose. You saw it earlier at the beginning of this video when I coughed. I got lightheaded and dizzy. And it takes a minute for me to get my head back together. It also happens when I turn my head. So I have to be careful turning my head so that I don't get dizzy. I've also got chronic fatigue. Between the SCDS and my left hip, I'm unable to walk very far without resting. Even simple household tasks wear me out quickly. Carrying anything, even lightweight items, feels like a ton and wearies me quickly. My wife and I were in the grocery store not long ago, and we picked up a couple of cans of soup, 12-ounce cans, and I was carrying two 12-ounce cans, so 24 ounces. But it felt like a ton, so when we got to the register, I asked my wife if she would carry those cans for me. And she has been so gracious and so helpful as I go through all of this. She is very concerned about me. I worry her a lot as a result of all of this. And that makes me feel really bad that I worry her so much. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. As I mentioned earlier, I believe regarding the VIMP test, there is conductive hearing loss in my right ear. if I put in a set of Bluetooth headphones, when they turn on, they emit a beep. It's the same exact beep in each ear, but my left ear hears treble, and my right ear, I describe it as a bass sound. One ear I will hear beep, and in my right ear I will hear beep. So it's the same exact sound, I'm just hearing it as a different tone. And the audiologist also told me that there is some play in my right eardrum, which I guess is turning my right eardrum into a subwoofer, which you use to play bass sounds. And when I'm talking to someone, I tend to lean my right ear toward them so that I can hear them when they speak, but I still miss much of what is being said due to brain fog, which is another symptom of SCDS. I have difficulty. There's brain fog, difficulty focusing. There's memory loss. I mentioned reading. I love to read, but I'm unable to focus, much less remember anything that I've read. This also applies to listening to audiobooks. I cannot retain what I'm listening to. And I have difficulty remembering the simplest things throughout the day. Even in the midst of a conversation, I can forget what I'm saying. There's internal pressure and fullness inside the skull that manifests itself almost as if it's a headache, but it's not really a headache. It's pressure built up inside the skull and inside the ears. It's as if my ears are plugged continually. About 4 times over the last 3.5 weeks, I guess, I've had an excruciating pain in my right ear, which is miserable, very intense. But yeah, again, my head always feels full. I told my wife if somebody could just drill a hole in my head and just release the pressure, that would be wonderful. Or when the surgeons go in to do the repair, if they just use an air hose and blow out the brain fog. I know that's a ridiculous concept, but that's how I feel sometimes dealing with all this. There's also internal sounds, because in your inner ear you have 2 holes. One is round and one is oval. And the sound goes in, I believe it's the oval hole, and goes through the cochlea, and it comes out the round hole, if I understand this correctly. And then it transmits the signal to the brain. But because there is a tiny hole in my semicircular canal, superior semicircular canal, they call it a third window. So what's happening is, by this freak of nature, sound is escaping through the third hole, and the sound is not being transmitted to the brain, but the sound is being released inside the skull. So I hear my own voice inside my head. It's reverberating inside my head as I talk. When I chew or when I swallow, the sound is amplified inside my head. When I turn my neck, I hear the crunching of bones, almost like sandpaper rubbing against sandpaper inside my head. Um, so um, it's just miserable and debilitating. It's taken over my life, and thank God there is a solution to it. Before they discovered the SCDS diagnosis, I had a neurologist and an audiologist tell me regarding the tinnitus that it's just something you have to live with. You have to learn to live with it, is what they said. You can use cognitive behavioral therapy to trick your brain into ignoring it, which is really hard to do considering the volume and the constancy of my tinnitus. Where was I going with that? So thankfully I didn't listen to that neurologist and the audiologist and learn to live with it, because I would hate to be this miserable for the rest of my life, because this is no life. And as much as I hate the idea of somebody cutting a hole in my skull in order to access something that's only about an inch inside the skull, but they have to cut a hole in the skull and pin the skin up. So I guess they pin the skin up and then they cut the skull. And then they have to go in and they have to lift the brain up and get it out of the way, because the brain is sitting directly on top of the superior semicircular canal. So they have to move it and prop it up so that they can get access to where this tiny little hole is. And they either plug it or resurface it, whatever they're going to do. Then they basically put me back together. The recovery is miserable. From what I understand from videos of people who have gone through this, some have said that for the first week or two, for the first few days, they're almost completely deaf in that one ear. And after about 2 weeks, they've got about 50% hearing back. And after about 4 weeks, they have about, their hearing is kind of restored. But there's still some balance issues, some nausea issues that are involved. You have to work with a physical therapist and basically relearn a lot of stuff as your brain is trying to get used to its new reality, other than the reality that it's experiencing right now. It has to get used to its new repaired reality. And then after about 4 to 6 months of recovery, then they go in and they do the other side. And while the first side is still in the midst of recovering, and getting acclimated to its new reality, now you're adding a second side. And when they go in and do the surgery on the second side, the recovery is even worse, because now the entire brain is completely trying to get used to this new reality, as I describe it. So I'm looking at about a year of recovery. I'm in the midst right now of trying to get with the neurologist, the neurosurgeon, and the head and neck surgeon in order to schedule the surgeries. And like I said, as much as I hate the idea, because I don't even like needles, much less somebody going in and cutting a hole in my skull. In the end, after the year of recovery, I should have a much better quality of life going forward. And that's what my wife and I talked about and discussed when the diagnosis was made and we found out about the surgery. She said, honey, if it's going to give you a better quality of life going forward, then by all means, we will deal with the recovery. We will deal with the year-long recovery, because 1 year compared to the next 35 or 40 years of my life is worth it. And as she reminded me, we have way too many adventures left to go on in our lives. And she wants to spend the rest of her life with me. So we have to make sure that I am able to live that life with her without being completely debilitated for the rest of my life. Anyways, I just wanted to share a little bit of my journey with you. It is hard, and I don't like it one little bit, but I just felt like today I should record this little video for you. I hate doing videos. I don't even do selfies. But I felt like this was important so that you get a sense of what I'm dealing with. And I've had to medically retire, so I'm not bringing in any income right now. It's all on Victoria. Luckily, as bad as it is, they gave her an extra class to teach, but that comes with extra income to help compensate for what I'm not bringing in. I'm working with Social Security Disability to try to get approved. They called me a few days ago and said that I should hear something in the next couple of weeks. I've also got back problems that originate from my time in the Navy back in 1995. In fact, October 17th, 1995, to be exact. So 29 years ago, I guess it's been. But the VA has denied my claim because there's not enough access to medical records all the way through that period. But I'm still fighting it, trying to see if I can get any assistance whatsoever. And that hurts me. It hurts that I'm not able to bring in an income anymore. It hurts that, between the coronary artery disease, the arthritis and degeneration in my back and my hip and my neck, the neuropathy, the diabetes, the sciatica, all these things combine to create this situation that we're in right now, which prevents me from working. Um, but again, I just wanted to make this video for you and just share a little bit of my heart and what's going on. And I hope that, you know, it touches your heart enough to pray for me and pray for Victoria, because she's carrying so much of the burden right now. And we need all the prayers we can get. We need God's help. So thank you for listening.